Okay, so I'm going to jump right into it. Of course, Facebook and LinkedIn and everything are like all virus all the time. But let's take a look again. We like to go beyond the public health issues and look at the economic issues, specifically as they relate to water. And the water situation is as follows. The municipal business is going to be funded for no problem. Why? Because the government is throwing money at everything. And I think we will see a tremendous amount of projects greenlit by the cities. And sure enough, this week we got a purchase order approved for a city reverse osmosis system. That means you're reducing the minerals, salts, and water. This is not ocean water. This is a Texas city after all. But the water that comes out of the ground is going to be brackish, high mineral, etc. And so there's reverse osmosis arrays set up for this. And also we sold as part of that a clean in place membrane cleaning system so that all those reverse osmosis membranes don't have to be sent out for cleaning and refurbishing, which is easier all around. And if people can afford it, it's a solution. Well, that's a great sign, because what's happening is, okay, I'm going to back up just a little bit, because in every industry where we've had a move from the old to the new, we've had tremendous disruption and upset. For example, hotels to Airbnb. Now, there's still hotels, right? Hotels exist. Way back when mainframes went to PCs, networked PCs, and so forth. Well, we still got mainframes. Landlines to cell phones. Landlines still exist. It's not that these old businesses go away. In fact, here's a crazy thought. Do you realize that most of the cloud storage in the world depends on these antiquated 50-year-old technologies? One company makes these tape drives, and all of the data that you're saving in the cloud is being saved on these tape drives, in the deep archive. So there's the stuff you're using all the time, which is on the big disk drives and memories and so forth. But then the stuff that gets sort of older and older gets put eventually on these tape drives. Tape drives, can you believe it? So right in front of us is great new technology. I've got my iPhone, which has more power than a whole mainframe computer used to have, and so forth. And so this is a recurring thing that happens, which is the old does persist. Now, is it growing anymore? No, it tends to be static, but it's still a huge market. So what we did in December, January, February, March of last year, 2019, is we went after recruiting a number of manufacturing sales reps. And these organizations, they often have, 30, 40, 50 people on the phone. They go after a lot of that municipal business, large companies, municipal, the big stuff. Why? Because, big stuff gives big commissions, and who wants to sell a $50,000 deal when you can sell a $5 million or a $20 million deal? And so they tend to specialize in the stuff that's higher ticket. And we started working with these, and there's always attrition. Really the ones that really produce for us is maybe half a dozen, but they really have started to feed us a lot of business. And so here was a city deal, and it's a beautiful thing. So Progressive Water Treatment, our Texas manufacturing operation, and increasingly our global headquarters, is the beneficiary of a lot of government business, which is a good thing. This is what we call a base load of business that's going to come in and pay a lot of bills. But we have a major problem with these equipment sales, and that is that, years ago, I learned when we first got into the water industry that equipment sales are low margin. I'm like, how could this be? The margins are so low. Well, the margin is consumed by overhead. It's consumed by endless, meetings with consulting engineers, endless meetings with the permitting authorities, back and forth. And then somebody comes in and tries to take the client away, and you got to do stuff to bring him back. And this goes on for months. And then you get the deal. And then, of course, it takes months to do. Back in January of last year, we announced an $800,000 project. It was for a university water cleanup system. And it was still being completed and commissioned in October. So these are very long cycles, and that tends to create very slow moving organization. This is why the water industry has been slow. So we've always been looking for ways to speed it up because I came from high tech. I understand how high tech works, and it's all about moving fast and disruption and speed of cycles. And so, how do we do it? And so we've really, I think, solved the problem. But before I go on into the solution, which is becoming more and more exciting, I wanted to mention something really amazing. We have a friend, my personal friend, Manuel Suarez. He's known as the Facebook Ninja, and he has become amazingly famous in the last 24 hours because he's known for what's called the Facebook Master Class, which he has a 60-man agency in Florida, and they manage sales of a $2,000 38 lesson Facebook Master Program. Teaches you everything about Facebook, Amazon, all that good stuff. Well, the big news yesterday was, of course, you may have heard about it, but he decided to give away that program for free. No strings attached, nothing, just it's free. Why did he do it? Because he said, listen, what's going to happen in this economic crisis is we used to go to Starbucks to hang out in Starbucks, and that was our third space, home, work, and then Starbucks. Well, now the third space is social media. It's Facebook, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, etc. And so what he predicted was that, digital marketing is really going to become essential to all companies. And so he made his master class free. And that's a brilliant thing because it's going to empower so many people to really take advantage of digital marketing. Well, he said as part of that, our paying clients are going to get the extra, the more, the new stuff. And we've long known this as in the high-tech world, where you have an earlier version of something, and that's what you give away for free. But the newest stuff, that is what gets paid for. And so Manuel, has done an amazing thing for the world by giving away a $2,000 product. And by the way, sacrificing a tremendous amount of current revenues. But by exercising creative destruction, he's actually gone ahead and created a future market from this installed base. So I strongly recommend that if you're interested in digital marketing, and if you want to know more about it, go to manuelsuarez.com, and there is an offer there to get it for free, absolutely free, no strings. But you have to do it. That's the bottom line. And I admire Manuel tremendously. Now, why do I mention him? Because Manuel Suarez's agency, AGM, is the agency that is helping us really boom the organization. And so he has a link for these free things, which is manuelsuarez.com/expansion. And so Manuel is so bought into our success that he's really personally invested a lot of himself. And in fact, he has agreed that he will be joining me next week on the webinar, and we'll be co-panelists, and we will be discussing something very, very exciting, which is digital and water. Digital and water. How does that work together? That's really fascinating. Obviously, water isn't digital, right? But there's ways to use the digital marketing channels to get deals done. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't do many $1 million deals on Facebook or LinkedIn. That's not how it happens. So the key then is how do you get your business out there and get many hundreds and ultimately thousands of deals done rapidly? Well, just do like what Manuel did. Don't charge for it. Now, I'm not saying give it away for free. This is actually hardware. It's got to cost something somewhere. But this is how we are developing the whole offering. And this is super exciting. The first step is to develop cool solutions to a problem, right? That are inexpensive, elegant, strong solutions to a problem. For example, I'm not going to talk about a couple of these because it's still confidential, but I'll talk about the one that we've talked about a lot before, and I'll show you how that fleshes out. The trailer park we've been working with in Alabama has had this problem, and these trailer parks, tens of thousands, maybe more trailer parks, they dump their poop in a sewage lagoon, literally like a pig farm. It is beyond incredible. So naturally, the Alabama EPA basically came down on them and said, they were trying to sell their property, and they said, well, before you sell it, you got to deal with this problem. And they tried to connect to the city, And it was only going to cost $500 to connect the sewage. And the city would not do it. The city would not accept to connect a residential complex to the sewer. I think it's a scandal myself because why? Trailer parks trash? No, these are good people. Why shouldn't they pay their taxes, so why shouldn't they have services? But that's the fact, is that the municipality refused. And so this trailer park operator, Steve and Claudia, good friends of ours, had to find a solution. They came to us, and Dan Early came up with a brilliant solution, which is very simple. Okay, so imagine this lagoon, and let's say it's a quarter of an acre, and it's sitting there, and it's gross. You build really what's like a diving platform, like a floater that goes out in the middle of that lagoon, and underneath it is a whole bunch of what we call biofilm, which is this nubbly stuff that looks like coral. Well, it acts like coral. It looks more like a ceramic film, but it acts like coral because it's got all these surfaces, and the beneficial bacteria basically eat up all of the poop, and you get a dramatic reduction of ammonia, of phosphorus, and increase of oxygen take-up capability. In other words, the ability of the pond to eat things up with using oxygen. Those three things basically solve the problem, and now the water in that pond can be sent to the city as untainted water. Now it's still got solids, but it's untainted. It's not messy. So that's a great solution. We call it the bobber. That's our term for it. We sent in a quote to them, and well, here's the price of the bobber, and they didn't come back. I'm like, yeah. Once again, long sales cycles of equipment. But this time, we didn't do it that way. I had a conference call today with Steve and Claudia, and we were doing screen shares, and with us was Michael Mann, who's our VP sales. And we said, you know what? That bobber, don't worry about it. We'll take care of everything. We will deliver to you a working system, and all you got to do is start paying by the month. It's going to be first, last, and security, and then you're going to have a short-term rental of this thing. It's going to be a bit more than the usual, right? But it's short-term. You can walk away from it anytime. You can say, take this thing away. What's great about this is it's a rental. In other words, we don't give up title to the piece of equipment. We own the equipment. It's like a TV rental. We all know that you shouldn't rent your TV. You should buy one, right? But there's still people who rent TVs, and they pay a high premium for that. Well, it's a similar model. So we take the bobber, and it has a given price, and it's not expensive. That's the key. It can't be expensive. So this thing is, I won't say exactly, but it's between $50,000 and $100,000. We take that and we say, okay, Steve and Claudia, you can rent this, and we will deliver it fully working. We'll deal with all the delivery issues. We'll make sure it's permitted. And all you got to do is pay 3 months, first, last, security, just like renting a house. And it's month to month. Very simple. How are we protected? Well, it's ours. We can come in and grab it anytime. It's our property. We never give up title to it. All right. Now, they're going to sell this thing. Let's say that they say, well, what about the next owner? Do they get title? I go, no, it's ours. Now, the next owner can either assume the rent, or they can say, take it away. That's their problem, right? We take it back, and we refurbish it. We put it out again to the other trailer park, because guess what? In the middle of the conversation, Steve started talking about all the other trailer parks in his town, this town of Troy, Alabama. And he started saying there's so many others that have problems with water. So plenty of demand for this if you have these machines. And machines, they're not machines. What they are is very simple. A floater, basically buoyancy tanks, and a platform, like a diving platform, and a bunch of material underneath, looks like an iceberg underneath, and a pump that draws 20 amps. So you plug it into, you have an extension that goes back to the circuit breaker, and it draws 20 amps, and that's it. So that thing is easy to refurbish, because you just basically replace the biofilm, no moving parts. Pumps are, it's a very low grade pump. So this is very low tech stuff. And now you have a growing fleet of these you're constantly putting out on a very profitable basis. Well, who pays for the floater? Who pays for the bobber? And that's the genius. Here's what we realized is that investors will come in, and they will supply that high five-figure amount as an investment. And we will take a small percentage for managing the whole thing. So they don't have to worry about a thing. They just put in the money and we take a percentage for managing it. And also if the thing eventually gets sold, because people, I like giving people an option to buy it out because you don't want them stuck with these endless rental payments, right? So one day they say, listen, I want to buy the darn thing. And so you let them, and then we share that too with the investors, and everybody's happy. That works. We have people who are very excited about doing that already. We could cash flow that. We could cash flow that high 5-figure amount. We could take care of it ourselves. But let's make the model work in a way that we can scale it up, that we can involve investors, right? Because what's the toughest thing in this new market? There's a huge $2 trillion giveaway by the government to everybody. Everything's 0% or very low percentages, right? The SBA loans are, that are being handed out are liar's loans, really. You just kind of sign there and you get 3.75%, which is a great rate for borrowing. But guess what? If you were trying to make money from your investments, it's really hard to make 10, 20% a year. And we can show how you can do that now with those investments. So we got people excited about that. And by the way, what's also happening in this market, despite the bailout, landlords are going to have a hell of a time with their rent rolls. People are going to say, I'm not paying. And do you think the government is going to evict these people? No, no, no. There's going to be forgiveness. So rental property is not great. So fine. We're not going to do any of that. All we do is supply a piece of equipment. And so we're supplying the water equipment, basically connecting investors with these very profitable, low risk things, because the investor will have a security agreement against that piece of hardware. So as a piece of hardware, let's call it $75,000. It's not exactly the price, but let's say it's $75,000. Okay, investor $75,000. It remains the property of OriginClear. The investor has a UCC, a Universal Commercial Code paper against that. So the investor can recall it anytime. It's not going anywhere. It's staying under our control. We put it out and we rent it out, and we have a fleet of these over time. And that turns into a business of cleaning up the trailer parks and so solving their problems. And by the way, they have other problems related to water, but this is the number one. Okay, so how does this connect to people investing in OriginClear? That's where it gets really exciting, because we have, as you know, our private placements where people come in, they have to be accredited, and they invest, let's say, $100,000. We allow people to invest less, but let's assume $100,000. Well, on that $100,000, if you put that in, we, as a company, will give you a rebate of $15,000 on your first investment, right? So now that $75,000 fictional investment that I'm talking about, you only come up with 60. We will carry the other 15 if you invested the 100. And by the way, that 100 is full return of principal, 8% every year, and a stock grant. You're doing great with that investment. And now you're getting this 15% bump from the water investment in addition to the very rich stuff. I'm looking at what Ken Berenger wrote just now. What if you had a guy who could provide you insider access to incredibly high yield asset backed deals that could return 10 to 20% annually? Well, now you've got that guy. The major differences between this and real estate is there are no vacancies and there are no delinquencies. This is superior in every way. So thank you, Ken, because Ken and I have been designing this at high speed. Bottom line is that we believe we have found a way to scale up our water equipment deals. How? By not charging for them up front. And I'm not talking about somebody doing a 15-year, like the solar deals that are 15, 20 years long. No, no, no. This is month to month. They take delivery of the thing, it goes to work, stays in there, and it keeps working. 90% of them will just leave it there. Maybe they'll come to their senses one day and buy it out, which is great too. So that's a win-win for everybody because they're not paying up front. We are not selling, we're prescribing. We're coming in there. You need this solution. It's fully approved by the state of Alabama. Jump in, plug it in, you're off and running. And so that is also being applied in a couple of other spaces. And I'll just hint to you the other space, which is really exciting. This week we had a meeting with our licensee in Wisconsin going after all the dairy farms. And sure enough, this licensee has a problem. How do we get people to put up $500,000 for a zero waste solution that creates fertilizer and clean water? Well, guess what? That's not what you go for up front. You go for the simple solution of throw a buoy in the lagoon and it'll stop your ammonia pollution, which is the number one problem, and your phosphorus levels. And it's also going to restore the oxygen levels in that lagoon. And now the state EPA won't be all over you and you buy time. And by the way, you don't have to pay for that up front. We'll take care of it. Just rent the darn thing. So now you're putting these things one after the other, bang, 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 bang. And there'll be the upside of down the road, that dairy farm will be ready for the big $500,000 upgrade, financed, whatever, not a problem. We're not in a rush. And we'll get the business because we are their vendor. That's the key. We're their vendor. I wanted to also answer a couple of questions. We have a question from JL. Is that royalties? No, no, no. This is not a royalty deal. This is a deal where you're renting the equipment. Okay. Now, the percentage we're getting is not a royalty percentage. It's an operator's percentage. My guess, and this is just initially, we're papering this in. Here's how it works. The end user, the trailer park or the hog farm or whatever, they start with first, last, and security. So let's call it for the hog farm. It's going to be more than say $5,000, but let's call it, monthly is $5,000 times 3 is $15,000. Put you into the solution, and all you do is pay by the month. Return at any time, no liability. It remains our property. The 5,000 is gross. We think the number is going to be 25%, a quarter of that for our work. We do all the work. The investor just takes 75% of the money. When you put that out in a spreadsheet, the numbers are humongous. They're fantastic. So everybody's happy. The dairy farm gets this problem solved, not for $500,000 where they have to go borrow it or go to their executive committee and get approval on it. No, they just put it on their operating budget. Now, guess what? The manure lagoon is no longer a problem. So that's wonderful. We maintain these things. If this 25% number holds, which is a pretty good number, it's great for us because we make it on every single monthly payment. And when the units come back for refurbishment, usually the security deposit to pay for that refurbishing, we also, when it's not being rented, let's say the trailer park or the hog farm buys it out in the end, well, they'll have to continue to pay us for maintenance. They'll be on a maintenance contract. We'll replace the biofilms and so forth. So that is not a royalty model because royalties, here's the problem with royalties. Number one, it's very hard to get paid. Let's say you're supplying 10% of $1 million system. Are you going to get paid a royalty on the $1 million system? No, you're going to get paid on the $100,000 portion of it. But is it really 100,000? You get in fights with licensees about which part is 100,000. And then it's only 5 to 8%. Here's the third problem, hard to collect, which is why we kind of de-emphasized China in the recent months. You haven't heard much about China. We kind of pivoted to India because India has the rule of law and they're wonderful people and they give, give, give. I love the Chinese, but they're not about give, 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 except to their families and their community. They're not about give, give, give to the Americans. The Indians have given us months and months of work that they're wonderful. Every single Indian partner that we have thinks only of giving to us. And of course we give in return. So very happy. Okay. Couple more questions and I want to continue. Do you have any competitors? This is from Jay in Tindola. Well, it depends what you're talking about. We have innovative solutions, right? This solution I was telling you about, the bobber, depends on a very specific proprietary material that we have the inside channel on. And I can't even get into what it is, but it's basically a very, very porous, or I'm not going to say complicated words on this, in this briefing, but basically it has tremendous surface area. It's a ceramic that has tremendous surface area. So it has that one array under the bobber probably has as much surface area as the entire coastline of the eastern seaboard. Like it's like 2,000 miles of surface area, all in this one thing. And that means it's extremely efficient. And we have an edge there because others can't do it. Now, others have different approaches. For example, aeration. Aeration, basically, you get air into it and you kind of like, you've seen these fountains. Fountains is a great way of doing it, but it's not complete. It doesn't solve the entire problem. It does not, for example, nullify the ammonia, right? The ammonia pollution is a big, big problem. So I'm not going to get too deep into that, but that hopefully answers your competitor question. And furthermore, nobody is giving these zero money upfront deals, right? These rent the equipment things. Nobody's doing that. It's brand new. Wayne Snyder, what does it take to be listed on the NASDAQ? All right, we're running out of time for that, but I'll tell you very quickly. We could get listed on the NASDAQ today. Why? Because we have backers who are holding paper, they're holding debt of ours that they're willing to turn into equity, as we say, securitize it. And that then turns into the shareholders' equity required, because NASDAQ requires, first and foremost, that you have at least $4 million worth of shareholders' equity. The stock price, that can be handled. And you can also, we've got plenty of shareholders. But the problem is, we get there, we wouldn't stay there. We have a plan, and eventually, I can't promise it because this is a public forum. I can't promise we'll get there, but it's my personal ambition, and I believe we can do it, is to get a head of steam and get on the NASDAQ. What will it require? It's not going to be about doing onesie twosie deals, with municipalities and so forth. It's going to be done by ramping up these white knight deals where we help people out, and all they got to do is just start paying their monthly fee. That, we believe, is a huge model. So here's how it is. Here's how the domino works. An accredited investor comes in the front and invests in our private placement. They don't have to, but they get that 15%, $15,000 down on the 100,000, right? It's a less percentage when they invest less, but they can still do it. Then they get access to the investment. The investment itself is very, very rich. They get given the chance to look at, what about this one? What about this one? What about this one? We keep presenting them with first looks at investments. They eventually do it. They make money. They're very happy. They'll do more. If they succeed, everything's great. We make our money. And here's what happens. We're not greedy. We're not trying to take half of the money. We think that a quarter or something like it is a fine percentage for taking care of all the noise. It's not a huge one, but we'll ramp it up, right? We can ramp it up because we don't have a long sales cycle. This is a short sales cycle. And word will spread like wildfire, just like Manuel Suarez is giving away his masterclass for free. Again, we can't do things for free, but we can take away that capital investment up front, and we don't have to stick with people with a big commitment on the back end. So we think that is amazing. The key here, and this is, again, Ken is telling me things that he and I are on the same wavelength for sure. The key here and what sets us apart is most traditional water companies still install water systems as construction projects. We've productized so that we can repossess and reposition because it's modular. Remember, we're a modular water systems company. Stuff's on a trailer, prefabricated in the factory, gets taken out, dropped in, plugged in, goes to work. Oops, you don't want it? Here comes the pickup truck, plugs into the trailer, takes it away. It's not even a fifth wheel trailer. It's small. So that's a beautiful thing. I wanted to cover a couple more things and to circle back, and that is that we are expecting very soon to be effective on our Regulation A offering. Now, why is that great? Again, I'm not marketing it in this presentation because we are not effective, but I believe we will be soon, and it's the best thing I can say. What I can tell you is that this is a great vehicle for unaccredited investors. You've been hearing all about the people who have $200,000 a year and they expect to keep making that, or they're making $300,000 a year with their spouse, or they have $1 million net worth not included in their home. We know how it is out there. And a lot of us just don't have that money. So how does this work? Well, you can be an unaccredited investor. What we give you is the chance to invest in what is basically a bond. It's a $25 special share, which is, think of it as a bond, meaning it's a company obligation. And we pay 10% per year, paid cash every month through direct deposit into your bank account for as long as we hold the paper, and we'll redeem it whenever we want. How do you get out? Because again, redeeming is at our option. Well, this preferred share, this bond, will be listed on the stock exchange, on the over-the-counter stock exchange as OCLN Series O, or whatever the OCLN Series M, I think it is. You'll see our regular stock, and then you'll see OCLN Series M. Will that one tend to go down? No, it won't. Why? Because it pays that 10%. Let's say it goes down to $12.50. Well, now that note is making 20% if you bought it for $12.50, right? So it'll tend to keep the price stable right around $25, which is what bonds do. They tend to be stable right at their principal price. And then people then have the 10%. Why is this so important? Because We know that 10% dividend, stable dividend with a possibility when we go to list it on the stock exchange of trading it. And again, I'm not making promises, but that's our intention. Well, then you've got something that you are making really good money, because nobody is doing 10% yield on anything that is backed by corporate good faith. Everything's going to go to 0%, and you're not going to make money from your certificate of deposit in the bank account. You're not going to make money on anything. The dollar, by the way, we're giving away $2 trillion to save people, and I'm glad we are. I'm not against it. It's going to devalue the US dollar. What does that mean? It means that things in America are going to become more expensive. Your dollar is not going to go as far. Sure, you'll get bailed out, and it's a good thing. But now you'll be running in place even more. It'll really help to have something that makes 10% reliably. And we believe you will agree once you see all of the reasons why in our offering when it comes out, that this is a reliable way to go. We've been in business for 13 years. We've been public 12, and we know how to stay in business. And furthermore, we have lots of successes, and it's our plan to continue. So I'm going to wrap it up and I'm not supposed to go much beyond half an hour, but Ken Berenger is the wisest man I know. And he's also, fortunately, does not have a lot of ego. So if you're able to do the accredited investment, dial 323-939-6645, 323-939-6645, and he has an extension 201. And he will tell you about these inexpensive 5-figure investments and how you can have access to discounts against them by investing in our private placement. That's number one. Number two, if you're not accredited, stay tuned, because I believe that next week I'll be able to talk about that openly. That's not a prediction. It's a hope. I have to be so careful what I say, but we believe that the unaccredited investor will have a phenomenal offer that is very simple and very rich, because it's that good old 10%, the only 10% in the market today. Eugene Greenstein. Okay, how does it impact OriginClear stock price? Zero impact. The bond is not OriginClear stock. It is the special $25 unit, right? $500 minimum. So if you do, for example, 100 shares and it's $2,500, right? And they earn you 10%. And that all by itself is not stock. So that is wonderful. The second thing is, from Galaxy Note 10, I've got, are the original stockholders still in the game with OCLN shares? Without getting into specifics, because we're short on time, we have made sure that our early angels, the people that carried the load all these years, if they were accredited, and unfortunately we've not been able to help unaccredited investors, but if they were accredited, they were able to basically be preserved, and we have their loyalty. And I personally am super happy that we were able to do that for them. From here on out, it's not going to be about preserving value. That is a defensive thing. We're going on the offensive. I believe that OriginClear can be a major water company, as I call it, the next generation water company, because of this innovative business model tied to elegant proprietary water solutions, and we can make a difference. I don't want to sell 12 systems a year that are, $1 million. No, we want to do deals where we are a funnel for 100, 200, 300 inexpensive 5-figure deals that make investors very happy and that solve real world problems and get rid of poop in trailer parks. My God. Or these horrible animal farms. Do you realize that the 2,500 cow dairy farm puts out as much poop as the entire city of Miami with 400,000 people? That is a scandal in modern America. We are going to handle it. That is our mission. Next week, please join me for an amazing webinar with the god of digital marketing, Manuel Suarez, who we love like a brother because they're doing wonderful things for us on digital marketing. We're working out ways to market this incredible structure digitally. Investor-backed real estate rentals, their investor-backed water equipment rentals is the new word of the day. And JL wants to know, is this patented tech? Yes, we use a mix of off-the-shelf and patented, but the bobber, quote unquote, is patented. And it's not our patent. It's a patent of a partner that we're in a close relationship with. Again, I've gone way too long. Anytime you go to originclear.com/CEO, all of my briefings are available in audio and a full transcription with pretty pictures and everything. exciting times. I wanted to thank you all for being here. It's been a great briefing. I'm super excited about this model, combination of stability for our existing business through the municipals and the growth through these investor-backed equipment rental businesses. I'm super excited. And I think that we're going to do the equivalent, just me saying, of an Uber on the water industry, because we're going to completely undo their capital problems. Thank you again, all. It's been wonderful. I appreciate it. And I'll see you next week, okay, for the big webinar. Thank you.